From the rugged peaks to the epic coastline and the amazing cities that sparkle in between, Washington is one of the most scenic states in the country. But all that rugged geography really wreaks havoc on the weather. The result? Rainforests skirt below glaciers and mountains of mountain snow spill over toward deserts. This is a state of extremes. Dramatically different climates span our dramatic landscapes. Because there is so much variation across this great state, I wanted to assemble a list of the top 10 most extreme climates of Washington. I'm George Waldenberger, the morning weather guy on KOMO News in Seattle. And to figure out this list, I'm going to need a little help. So I paired a couple of experts to rank things, including Nick Bond, a state climatologist. If there's a weather stat here, he knows it. And Jacob Genuise, who'll comb through the numbers. Together, we'll nail down the top 10 crazy microclimates of Washington state. Number 10, the windiest city in Washington, Ellensburg. Sitting in central Washington is Ellensburg, notably historical and home to the grunge music icons Screaming Trees. Here, screaming winds commonly sail through Snoqualmie Pass and down the east slopes of the Cascades right into this town.
The gap in the terrain represented that I-90 goes through is partly why it's focused right there.
Hot summertime air on this side of the mountains draws winds through the gap on almost a daily basis. As a result, Ellensburg has more windy days than the foothill communities on the west side of the Cascades that were battered in 2024's bomb cyclone, and coastal and island areas catching the open fetch of wind off the waters. Number 9, the snowiest place in Washington, Paradise, Mount Rainier. If you're a snow lover, then Paradise, sitting at 5,400 feet in elevation on the southwest side of Mount Rainier, is your paradise, as it's often hailed as one of the snowiest places in the world.
There's different metrics that one can use. In just about every metric, Paradise comes out pretty high.
Depending on those metrics, including snow depth, yearly snowfall, seasonal snowfall, and number of snowy days, nearby Mount Baker does rival as snow capital, but Paradise wins out in more fields.
Paradise gets about 639 inches of snow in an average year, and that's better measured in feet probably. It's 53 feet of snow. That's a lot of snow. That's 2 houses, maybe 3 stacked on top of each other, right?
Now, if Paradise for you doesn't include snow, then number 8 is for you. Number 8, the least snowy place in Washington state, Anacortes.
Anacortes, is that right, Jacob?
Yeah, this is another one where it kind of depends on the metric, right? But there's some good, some good reasoning why Anacortes is the least snowy.
Anacortes, situated perfectly near the mild waters of the northern edge of the Puget Sound, which often keeps temperatures from getting too cold, and in the rain shadow of the Olympic Mountains, here precipitation is limited. The resulting snow void, so to speak, brings a mere 3 inches of snow per year. But there were other contenders for the least snowy spot in Washington.
Near Long Beach, 3.3 inches per year. And then also on the east side, too, Priest Rapids Dams, which is kind of a little bit north of Tri-Cities, near Mattawa, gets, of course, rain shadowed.
For those of you who like it hot, number 7. The hottest place in Washington, Hanford. Many people remember Washington's infamous heat wave of 2021. This is when the small agricultural community of Hanford scorched, reaching nearly 120 degrees.
On June 29th of that event, in 2021, Hanford reached 120 degrees and set a new state all-time record. So any station across the state, it's the hottest temp we've ever recorded.
Hanford averages almost 60 days in the 90s per year, whereas Seattle only hits 4 or 5.
In an average year, Hanford can expect to reach about 108 on at least one day throughout the year.
Okay, so multiple different metrics makes Hanford the hottest place. Very little argument here. Nick, can we call this a desert?
Well, yeah.
That's foreshadowing using a rain shadow, but first, let's get to number 6. Number 6, the foggiest city in Washington state, Olympia. Here, it's not just politics, but also the weather that can cast a vibe over the city.
Olympia. I always see this on my maps. Olympia is the first to fog over. Jacob, Olympia is the foggiest spot in Washington?
I think it's fair to say, yeah. I think as far as like, major cities where lots of folks live and experience this fog, I think it's definitely on that list. It's notably foggier than other places in the Sound. Folks who have lived in Olympia and other places have probably noticed that. And cool air just settles down in the Nisqually Basin around Olympia.
Along with lighter winds and moisture from Puget Sound come the perfect conditions for reduced visibility, giving Olympia more than double the days with dense fog than even Seattle, just a short drive to the north.
October is the foggiest month, and in a lot of cases that is because we're not getting really active weather all that often, yet the nights are getting longer than the days, and so there's a chance for it to cool down to the point where fog forms.
There's cool and there's downright cold, leading us to number 5. Number 5, the coldest city in Washington, Winthrop.
Winthrop, the Wild West town of Winthrop. It is cold, right, Jacob?
Yeah, it is freezing up there and pretty consistently cold too.
This region of the Methow Valley, east of the Cascades, often receives Arctic air in the wintertime. On one such occasion in December of 1968,
They've recorded the coldest temperature ever recorded in Washington, which was -48 degrees.
that's colder than Minneapolis, Minnesota's record low.
That's intense. Very few people in the world have experienced that temperature, and it happened right here in our state.
But it's not just with cold blasts. Winthrop averages a morning wintertime low temperature of 15 degrees. But there is one area west of the Cascades, although not as cold, that also deserves mentioning. The town of Arlington, consistently colder on winter mornings than other nearby communities.
Why this Arlington icebox, so to speak?
All that cold air rushes into the bowl around Arlington, and it really, really cools it down. It's really remarkable how much colder it can be. Like
Number 4, lightning capital of Washington, Colville.
This one is debatable. There's a few options here. But number 4, lightning capital, Colville. All right, tell us about it, Jacob.
Yeah, I think the key here is mountains, right?
In the northeast part of the state, Colville sits in the mountains.
And you can expect maybe 1 or 2 strikes per square kilometer per year.
These mountains see more lightning during the summer, which totals up to even more than coastal areas like Westport that get with fall storms. But all in all, in this state, lightning is much rarer than the rest of the country.
The lower 48 states, Washington gets the fewest lightning strokes per square kilometer of any of them.
Moving on to number 3, the driest city in Washington, back to Hanford.
Hanford, once again, kind of reaches the top of these rankings. They get 7.12 inches on average per year.
But it's not just Hanford. The entire lower Columbia region through Sunnyside and the Tri-Cities all qualify as deserts with less than 10 inches of rain per year. As moisture is wicked out of the air flowing over the east side of the Cascades near Paradise, leaving very dry air running down the slopes into this region of the state.
That's the same rainfall as Phoenix. It's as dry as Phoenix in parts of Washington.
In a state known for rainy weather, that brings us to number 2.
Number 2, rainiest spot in Washington. This depends on how you measure rainy. But for this, the rainiest spot in Washington, you're giving to Long Beach.
So the number of total days per year that you expect to get rain. And for this stat, Long Beach wins out.
250 days each year it rains in Long Beach, Washington's coastal town that's home to the so-called world's longest beach. This beach spot was able to edge out other nearby rainforests that actually see more rain accumulating in the rain gauge over the course of the entire year because they do so over fewer days.
We have to mention, though, Quileute, Forks, and Hoe, because those areas get more rain. It's just that it rains more and the amounts are higher when it does rain there. But when you compare it to number of days with rain, we actually go a little bit less than Long Beach.
So why did we use the number of days with rain versus total rainfall to come up with the rainiest city in the state?
You know, if it rains 1 inch versus 2 inch, you're still going to get wet. And, you know, what's the difference? Why, right? And so it's more just how many days do you have to, bring your raincoat?
Before we get to number 1, we're going to give an honorable mention for the cloudiest place in Washington, Quileute. The region between Forks and the coast, carrying the strong history and traditions of the Quileute Reservation.
And Quileute won out. They can expect to see about 70 to 80% annual cloudiness. So about 70 to 80% of the time, there's cloud cover overhead.
Using reanalysis data, modeling reconstructs the past, showing 7 out of 8 of 10 days out of the year, it's cloudy in Quileute, whereas Seattle is much closer to 5 out of 10. Number 1, best climate in Washington.
And now it's time for the number 1 craziest microclimate. And by that, we're going to go with not crazy. What is the Goldilocks or Camelot type weather? The best weather in Washington state is Seattle. Can you believe that? Seattle, Nick? Seattle, is that right?
Well, we did a survey of the readers of the newsletter some years ago, a monthly newsletter that the State Climate Office puts out, and asked them what kind of weather conditions really mattered.
With those weather conditions, such as average temperature, rainfall, snow, winds, and cloud cover, Nick compiled an average into a single value. That's what he called the ideal Washington Climate Index.
It actually turned out that SeaTac came out with the ideal climate. Now, to be sure, most of the respondents lived in the Seattle area, and so maybe there was a kind of a hometown sort of bias there or something.
I could see that working either way, but
yeah, it does appear like people in Washington state prefer more moderate conditions, not especially cold weather in the winter, and certainly not really hot weather in the summer.
Yeah, and Jacob, if you think about this does make sense because the list that we went through, the rainiest, the coldest, the hottest, Seattle isn't a contender for any of those. So since it plays so low in all of the categories, it comes out ahead when you average all the categories up. Am I right?
Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. We're kind of a middle-of-the-road climate as far as Washington goes. There are much wetter, much colder, much hotter places in Washington, and Seattle kind of sits in a nice in-between, a Goldilocks, if you will.
Other cities that performed high on this list include Bellingham and Pullman.
Well, that was fun. All right, we appreciated having our panel of judges here identifying the top 10 craziest microclimates. If you're watching this and you think you live in an even crazier microclimate, please leave your suggestion, your nominee in the comment section below. Enjoy exploring our great microclimates here in Washington.